And we are ready. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and take it away. Just for some housekeeping, I'll ask everybody to mute themselves so that it's quiet. And then if you have any questions, don't hesitate to pop in. All right, go ahead. Thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you, Deb. I just wanted to say this too, that I'm here to serve all populations out at the university, whether they're undergraduate, graduate, and I also work with alumni too. So once you graduate, if there's questions that you have, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. I'd be happy to work with you. I also wanted to mention that I'm not obviously a nurse or a nurse practitioner or master's level nurse by trade, but I'm married to a nurse practitioner, so I've got to live that life for the last 27 years too. So that gives me a little bit of credibility, and as you're going to see in a few minutes here, I'll talk about my my kind of background with career services. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen and going into the presentation. And hopefully it shares.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. I am not seeing it on mine, but that's okay. I'll just see what I can do.
It is in the slide. It's in the slide mode, not the presentation mode right now. There you go. That's it.
Perfect. So I'm just going to cover today 3 or 4 different topics that are related to the job search that I think might be helpful for you as you're preparing for that stage. And there's some activities that are included in those. So if you have questions or comments throughout, just feel free to let me know. So again, just a little bit about myself. My background is in counseling psychology. I received my master's degree. I'm a licensed counselor in the state of North Dakota. I've been that in that capacity since 2005. And I bring over 25 years of experience with career services. This is basically what I've done since I've been out of graduate school. I've worked at a couple other universities in the Midwest before landing back here at UMary. I originally started out as an undergrad at UMary, but they didn't have my major. So I transferred after a few years up to UND, finished there with a psych degree, and then moved on and did my master's degree. You'll see my contact information if you need to set up an appointment or send a resume for me to look at, or whatever the case may be. Feel free to reach out. I try to be as prompt as I can. Sometimes you'll get an answer the same day or within minutes. Other times it's the next day. And then also a little bit depends on what's going on in my office too. But I try to be as prompt as I can to be respectful of your time. Next thing I wanted to talk about just briefly is Handshake. Handshake is our online job posting platform, and it does more than that, but I wanted to make everyone familiar with that and just kind of highlight some of the items that you're able to do within the system. Obviously, first and foremost, you can search for jobs and internships. I do see every once in a while positions for master's prepared nursing candidates. So it could be used as one of your tools in your toolkit for searching for jobs. You can also research employers and find out recruiter contacts. You can participate in virtual events. I know that in the past, Mayo Clinic has done some things. We did something last year with Cleveland Clinic, where they did um, a little virtual info session as well. So there are some healthcare related things in there as well with the virtual events. You can communicate with other students, and you have the ability to upload your resume. And then at the bottom is a link to where you can get started. Everyone should have a profile in there, but you really need to go in and claim it and add the details to your profile, work experience, education, interests, that type of thing. So if you haven't, take a look at Handshake as well. Okay. So that's kind of the getting to know me, Handshake, kind of the housekeeping type things. But now we're going to get into some of the topics that I spoke about. The first one that I want to talk about, everyone's favorite, I think, but I really think it's important for students to be aware of this and have one prepared and know what it's about. But the elevator speech, and this was something that originated in Hollywood. People trying to pitch their ideas to the execs and producers. You know, they wanted to kind of get their name out there and their ideas out there. So that's where it kind of originated. And basically what it is, it's a very short, it's a commercial about yourself. I would say, probably no more than a minute in length. Again, just to describe who you are, what your experiences are, what your education is, maybe some of your results or accomplishments, and these should be geared towards your profession, geared towards the audience that in whatever situation it might be in. And like I tell other students, you might have different versions of your elevator speech based on setting, based on maybe different areas within nursing that you're interested in. And your elevator speeches could be not even related to the job search. It could be about an idea that you have, maybe in a group project. There could be all sorts of instances where you might need to use some version of an elevator speech. The one I like to, as an example that I like to share is, in one of my roles outside of the university, I coordinate a lot of events for tennis for an association I belong to, and I go out and pitch our tournaments for sponsorships from businesses. So I have to kind of talk about the event and the benefit it brings, and then do the ask for money. So that's kind of another version of an elevator speech or pitch that you might do. So yeah, let's move on. When putting your elevator speech together, there is a sort of a 3-step template where you use the present, past, and future. This is one that I put together earlier this morning. So let's just, let's give you a minute to take a look at that. Present, I'm a third-year DNP student at the University of Mary doing research on the effects of yoga and mindset on postpartum health. In the past, I previously worked at an OB/GYN clinic and volunteered at a local first choice clinic. Future, I'm looking for a challenging leadership position in a women's health clinic where I could implement a holistic approach to a healthy lifestyle. So obviously you would kind of combine that, blend it together to come up with your elevator speech. Okay. All right. So this was an activity I had. Obviously, it works better when we're in person, but if those that are in attendance want to spend a minute or so or two jotting down some ideas, And if someone wants to share when we're done here, that would be wonderful. So I'll just give you a minute or so to quickly jot some ideas down. While you're writing things down too, the last bullet on this slide says practice. And I think it's imperative that we do that as well. Just like interviewing, we need practice in delivering these speeches. Creating them is one thing, but then effectively delivering them is another thing. So practice is important. You can think about any of the skills or competencies that you've learned in the nursing programs. Some came more natural than others, and I think the same can be said about elevator speeches or interviewing. So I think it's a good idea to dust these off from time to time, or maybe rework them, tweak them, and then do some practice on them. Does anyone have a bullet point or two that they can share that they came up with?
I could, but I'd prefer a student if they want to.
I would prefer that too.
Hey, Kevin, my name is Carrie Candy. I'm in the dual degree MSN MBA program. I actually have COVID, so I'll keep my camera off if that's okay.
Sure.
I'm at home kind of in bed, but I wanted to tune in. So I just jotted down a couple of things and just said, I'm currently in my last semester of the MSN MBA dual degree program at the University of Mary. My background is in critical care, but as a native of Canada, I'm actually passionate about universal health care and am interested in roles where I can impact change in policy going forward.
Wonderful. That sounds great.
Great. Thanks.
You bet. Well, I'm going to move forward. I came up with an elevator speech this morning. Took me a few minutes, but here goes. Hello, my name is Kevin Allan, and I'm a nurse practitioner at Sanford Health, and I've been a provider at the pain clinic for almost 10 years, assisting clients with chronic pain. I'm experienced with doing trigger point and Botox injections. I've been a member of the Nursing Senate for over 6 years and chaired the committee for 2 years. I was awarded the APP of the Year in 2018. Prior to becoming a nurse practitioner, I worked as a nurse for 10 years in various settings, such as the OR, geriatrics, med-surg, and PACU. During my 21-year military career, I was able to hone my leadership and organizational skills. I would love to hear more about your organization. Here's my card, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. How was that?
Excellent. Can you, I don't know, it's not really part of, or may not be part of your presentation here, but can you talk a little bit about LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn, is a great source. Well, let me just, I'm just trying to do an analogy here. Facebook would be more for friends and family, and LinkedIn is more for professional contacts. So LinkedIn would be a great way to reach out and connect with people in your discipline and even across disciplines as well. It's a great way to research companies, organizations. I think more and more recruiters and organizations are using it as a tool to post jobs, search for candidates. LinkedIn itself, you can develop your profile, with your education, your work experience. You can upload a resume to. You can join different groups on LinkedIn. I also have a handout that I can send to Deb that kind of can get people going if they haven't had much experience with it. But I would encourage you to at least check it out if it's something that might be of interest to you. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
So just so you know, I slapped my name on this elevator speech. But all the other content, by and large, is from my wife. So that's kind of a snapshot of what she might say. Yeah, that's kind of, you'll notice that it's focused. I mean, I could provide maybe more detail to that, but it just kind of gives a quick overview. Like I said, it's focused, tells about some of my accomplishments and my experience levels. And that's kind of what the goal is with the elevator speech. Okay. Just some quick applications of the elevator speech. It could be used in career fairs, at clinical rotations, if you're at some networking events like the chamber puts on, conferences that you all might have to attend to keep current and to get those CEUs. If you go to socials or other award banquets, job interviews, obviously, and just any other networking type of situations. So can be used in a wide variety of settings. All right, next thing I want to talk about is the resume versus a CV or curriculum vitae. Is there a difference? And there is a huge difference between these two documents. I will say this too, that sometimes these two words or terms will get used interchangeably. They might say submit your CV, 3 references, a cover letter, etc. What they're probably then referring to is submitting your resume. CV is typically used only within higher ed or academia type of positions. And as you're seeing on the slide, a resume is brief, 1 to 2, maybe 3 pages, where some CVs can be dozens of pages. In fact, one of my colleagues from grad school, he was a PhD professor. I think his CV was upwards of 40 to 50 pages with a variety of different topics that we'll kind of hone in on shortly. Again, resume is used for applying for most positions that you might be looking into. For the resume, we're looking at maybe doing a summary of qualifications or skills, competencies, your work experience, volunteer, extracurricular activities, and education. Whereas in a CV, you're going to be going a bit more in depth. And I'm going to actually skip past this and go to the next one. And here's a larger list of things that might go into a CV, including your education. You might talk about any scholarly work that you're doing, your thesis, dissertation, any type of project. If you have teaching experience, research experience, what your interest areas are in those 2 areas. Have you done presentations? Do you have publications in books or in journals, or in any other source? Conferences that you've attended or spoke at? Do you belong to professional organizations or associations that's related to the field? any honors and awards that you might have received, any civic, community leadership, volunteer experience, certifications that you might have, scholarships, fellowships, and there's probably more things that you could add to that as well. So if you're putting a CV together and utilizing all these topics, you could easily go 4 or 5 pages in length on your CV. So there is a difference. And like I said, typically they're probably only asking for your resume. And again, unless it's an academic type of position. I'm going to move on to the next topic, the third topic, and bullet points. Bullet points are something that you could or should use in your resume. I like to throw the bullet points under a special category called employer perspective. The employer perspective, the resume is about you. You're trying to market yourself, sell yourself, get your foot in the door. But there's always the person on the other end who's going to be reading it. So that's why we have that employer perspective. And the thing to keep in mind is, at least initially, employers may not be spending a lot of time looking at your resume. They're going to be more scanning, breezing through it a little bit, and bullet points will help them accomplish that versus having long, lengthy paragraphs that takes more time to kind of sift through and read through. With bullet points, you're not writing in complete sentences. You're not using personal pronouns like I. You want to avoid passive language. You want to begin with action verbs. You also want to talk about what you did, and then talk about how you or why you did it and what was the result of your actions. Sometimes students will ask me, how many bullet points can I list per job or per clinical rotation or internship? And it really depends, I think, on the nature of the position. Was it a management position? How long have you worked there? Is it entry level or is it a little more advanced? That's going to help dictate on how many bullet points you might have. And the other thing I like to say too is, if you're doing 4 or 5 or even 6 bullet points, be strategic. Some bullet points are going to be stronger and more important than the others, and they should probably go towards the top rather than being buried 4 or 5 in. So keep that in mind as well. Just a little formula that I threw together about bullet points. Take that action verb plus your task and skill and add a result, and that'll kind of come up with your final bullet point. And I've just kind of came up with some examples on the right there that you can take a look at. When you can quantify things too, or show how things improved in efficiency, or if they were more effective, that's always going to make yourself stand out, and it's going to catch the attention of managers, hiring managers, clinic directors, HR, etc. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. So just kind of the recap. We talked a little bit about bullet points, difference between resume and CV, and we talked about the elevator speech. The last thing that I want to talk about is the START technique, and this really is in reference to when you are interviewing for a position. And the START technique is basically a way to create more powerful responses to questions. It helps kind of flush out your answer a little bit. I always like to uh, uh, draw an analogy with the STAR technique to the motto of Missouri. So I lived in Missouri for about 4 years, and Missouri is the show me state. So in regards to your resume or cover letter or even interviewing, show me. So if you talk about being a great communicator, explain how you're a great communicator. If you were part of Toastmasters, or if you lectured in your church, or whatever the situation might be, provide an example of when or how you have that skill. So the STAR technique, it's an acronym for situation, task, action, and response. And as you can see on this grid, it kind of gives some examples on each of those areas. But I'm just going to give you my own STAR technique. And the question might be, describe a time when you displayed leadership or initiative. What did you do and what was the result? Okay, so that's like a big three-pronged question, wanting to get at your leadership ability. So using the STAR technique, I might say something like this. And this isn't a work example. It's a one from one that's my involvement outside of work. So I might say something like this. So I'm a parent of a girls tennis player, and me and another parent decided that we would like to form a booster club for the girls and boys tennis programs. So in order to get this off the ground, we had to incorporate with the state to become an official entity. We had to create a web page to help promote our organization. We had to create and elect officers for the club as well. We also had to do some fundraising to get us up off the ground, and we came up with a founders club, and we went out and solicited businesses to be a part of that, and they would be recognized on our website and in other social media platforms. The result of our actions is that we were able to purchase new uniforms, warm-ups for our the girls and boys program. We were also able to make improvements to the courts, adding benches, trees, and other amenities that we didn't previously have. We were also able to purchase equipment for the team, and as well as doing banquets and other socials for the team as well. Okay, so that's my example using the STAR technique to address the question, describe a time when you displayed leadership. So it helps kind of develop your story. It helps show skills that you might have. And like I said, it really helps you to better flesh out the question, okay? So here are 3 questions. I just read the top one. Tell me about a time when that you worked with a difficult patient. What was the nature of the conflict and the result? Tell me about a time when you disagreed with a physician or coworker. How did you resolve it, and what was the result? In case you're wondering, these types of questions that you're seeing are called behavioral questions or behavioral interviewing. With these questions, they like to see how you approach problems in the past, because past behaviors predict future behaviors, okay? So they want to see how you've approached things, how you accomplished them, what you did, because that'll give them insights on how you're going to do things with them in whatever situation or environment that is in. So, does anyone want to give one of these questions a whirl and try to incorporate the STAR technique? And if we don't, that's fine too. The big thing though is I wanted to make you aware of this. I mean, you may have been using some version of this, but never quite knew that there was an acronym or a name attached to it. And if you haven't, this is, like I said, a good way to make sure that you're performing optimally in an interview type of a situation. I know there's, in most cases, a strong demand for healthcare workers, but at the same time, there's going to be competition for higher level positions as well too. So that by, like I said, being able to perform at your best when you're in an interview situation will help get you the results that you're looking for. So that's all I had. Are there any questions for me?
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. Emma, did you have a question?
Nope. I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I, in my role, every application to our MSN programs comes through me. And those applications often, well, they always require a resume. And so I see a lot of resumes. And I appreciate you clarifying the difference between a resume and a CV, because sometimes I see things that I don't exactly know. It's sort of a resume, but it's sort of a CV. It kind of just wanders and I'm not really sure what it is, but I mean, that really, it's just an observation that I make. But my question is, you said a resume can be 1 to 2, maybe even 3 pages. And back when I was in school and learning things, it was, it's got to be 1 page. You got to make that resume 1 page. And so my question is just, it's acceptable now to have it to possibly 3 pages?
Well, I think yes, and 3 might be pushing it. I would say definitely you could go to 2. The thing that you want to kind of use when you're using your discretion on your resume is that the content that you're putting on should be relevant. And relevant to what? Relevant to that job description that you're looking at. It's not a great practice to put things onto your resume to just make it longer if they're not really focused or if they're not really relevant. So that's kind of the lens that you should use. Really look at that job description, and are there things that you can add that would help again better your case, that they reach out to you and call you in for an interview. But with your nursing background, you're doing a lot of clinicals, you're doing some might have experience that they're bringing to the table, both past and maybe present. If you're volunteering, I don't know how that you could in some cases fit it all on 1 page. I just think it's probably going to spill over to 2, so yeah, I think it is fine to go to 2 pages. Now, having said that, I will add this. You want to put your resume most important to least important. And I would say the 3 big things that people are looking for are education. What's your educational background? what type of work experiences do you have or clinical rotations? And then what are your skills? So those big three shouldn't be on the second page. I mean, some of them might, but it should be higher up on the resume, perhaps on the top half of your resume, or at least education, your skills, and then maybe the start of your clinicals or work experiences. And obviously they're going to push down onto the bottom and onto the second page. So.
Okay, excellent. And then the other question I had, and I think you probably just answered it, but I see sometimes where students or applicants rather will list their current job at the bottom, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, it should be up at the top. Is that correct? Your current job should be at the top?
Well, it's I'll just throw this scenario out. If, for instance, you're into your role, whatever that might be, so I'll just use a nurse practitioner. If I've been out of school for 10 years and I have all this great experience, I would say your experience is going to start trumping your education. So yes, let's put our experience higher on the resume up towards the top. If you're a newer grad and you don't have a lot of experience, say you went from your nursing program almost right into your master's program and you don't have a lot of work experience, then maybe let's put that education up towards the top, and then clinical experiences, things below that. But your biggest selling point then would probably be your education. So it may flip-flop depending on where you're at in your career.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I mean, not where it is on the resume, but like they list their first job that they ever had first, and then their second job is below that, and then their current work is listed last.
Yes, actually, yeah, that's thanks for the clarification. Yeah, you're gonna want to list those reverse chronologically. So let's start with the most recent and work our way back. Employers are wanting to know what have you done most recently, and then the other things will follow after that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate that, because like you said, sometimes, you don't have enough time to read every single word on the resume. And so you're kind of looking for those headings. And when I see the first heading of, I worked as a CNA 20 years ago, I'm thinking, okay, well, what have you been doing since? And then it takes my time to look down and find out more information. So, okay, good. All right, does anybody have any other questions for Kevin?
This is Carrie again. I don't have any questions, but Kevin, you had mentioned some information about LinkedIn that you could send to Deb, and I would be interested in that if possible.
Yeah, I will. Once we finish up here, I'll send it over to Deb in the next few minutes, and then she can get it out to you guys.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the time.
You bet.
All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate this, and we will send this video out to our entire graduate nursing student body. And I don't know whether you'll get any more questions or not, but if you do, that's why they're asking.
All right, perfect.